Hi everyone, welcome to the Celebrity Diaries. Rexton Gordon was brought into the world on January 17, 1966, by the unassuming environmental factors of St. George Municipality, St. James, Jamaica. Rexton Gordon, otherwise called Shabba Positions, was bound to make a permanent imprint on the music world. Raised in the midst of the dirty roads of SE Village Nurseries in Kingston, he might have surrendered to the cruel real factors of his current circumstances. Anyway, it was definitively this setting that touched off his enthusiasm for music and set before him a way to fame. In spite of the difficulties of his childhood, Shabba perceived his natural melodic ability right off the bat. His early stages in Kingston gave the ripe ground for his imaginative improvement. At 8 years old, his family migrated to the clamoring capital city, managing the cost of him admittance to an energetic music scene that would shape his fate. As a teen, Shabba had an extraordinary experience that would change the direction of his life while functioning as a jug gatherer at a neighborhood occasion. He was enraptured by the exhibition of a rising craftsman, Josie Ridges. Enchanted by the force of music, Shabba set out to seek after his own melodic desires with unflinching assurance. Anyway, his excursion to progress was not without its mishaps. Ousted from secondary school for his defiant way of behaving, Shabba confronted the overwhelming possibility of exploring a dubious future. Pondering his wild childhood, he truly recognized the unavoidable impact of his current circumstance. Constancing Aruba has no unpleasant men, defying the ghost of savagery and sadness that lingered over his local area. Shabba opposed the chances to rise above the impediments forced upon him as his star climbed in the music business. Shabba stayed unfaltering in his obligation to elevating the young who shared his experience. Drawing from his own encounters, he looked to give a message of trust and flexibility to those wrestling with comparative difficulties. Through his music and support, he tried to impart a feeling of strengthening in an age frequently minimized by society's predispositions. In an opportunity experience that would modify the direction of Shabba's profession, Josie granted significant guidance to the youthful performer, encouraging him to rethink the organization. He kept this critical second, prompted a greeting that would start a fire inside Shabba, an encouragement to Josie's recording studio. The possibility of venturing into the studio filled Shabba with a fervor so discernible that rest evaded him that evening, much to his dismay that this studio, bound to become one of the country's biggest, would act as the takeoff platform for his famous lifetime under the mentorship of the regarded Mem. Acker. Embracing the moniker co-pilot, Shabba set out on his melodic excursion, delivering his presentation single notice under the victim's feet in 1985. However, his initial endeavors went unnoticed by standard crowds, laying the groundwork for future achievement. Success in 1988, Shabba delivered his debut collection, Rapping, with the women denoting his proper passage into the music scene regardless of its unobtrusive gathering. This collection prepared for a progression of deliveries on A Little Free Name in Sovereigns, New York. It was during this period that Shabba's music started to develop, finishing in the production of the famous track demo from his sophomore collection, Just Reality. The irresistible mood of demo would proceed to impact the scene of well-known music, especially in the development of Puerto Rican reggaeton. Shabba's particular persona, portrayed by his suave disposition, signature Gumby hairdo, and sumptuous clothing, spellbound crowds, overall moving him into the spotlight. In 1991, Shabba Kingston arrangement with Epic Records, catapulting him higher than ever of accomplishment. His most memorable task under this name, as crude as could be expected, earned broad praise, procuring him his most memorable Grammy grant for Best Reggae Collection d'Eté. Armed by his newly discovered popularity, Shabba kept on pushing limits with the arrival of his sophomore collection XT, exposed in 1992, highlighting graph-besting hits like Chime O Lin and Slow and Hot. Shabba set his status as a melodic symbol. Joint efforts with eminent specialists like Johnny Gill and Maxi Cleric further established his standing as a pioneer in the business. Shabba Positions. Enjoying some real success on the floods of achievement, he arrived at a zenith with a tune that resounded a long way past the shores of Jamaica. Fans of Shabba's initial vocation would immediately perceive this track from his introduction collection as a famous hymn that would come to characterize his inheritance. Initially stuck by English Guyan craftsman de Borhy Glasgow under the title Champion Sweetheart, the tune went through a piercing change following Glasgow's troublesome passing at 29 years old because of lymphoma and a sincere recognition for his late partner. Shabba picked to re-record that burial chamber, enrolling the vocal gifts of Chevelle Franklin anyway. In the midst of the elation of his blossoming achievement, Shabba would before long wind up pushed into the eye of a tempest in a devoted meeting on he English music program. The word Shabba was gone up against with a disputable point that would shake the groundworks of his profession and the ballroom scene at large, asked to say something regarding the quarrelsome subjects of the hit melody Blast Bye by individual ballroom craftsman Buju Banton. Shab's reaction lit a firestorm of judgment. Buju's track had mixed furious debate for its apparent homophobic versus drawing the eye of promotion gatherings. For example, the Gay and Lesbian Coalition against maligning Happy, and a second that would resound across the globe. Shabba's comments on the show were met with far and wide shock. Repercussions were quick and extreme. Shabba wound up casually dropped from Bobby Earthy's visit. While in the UK, he confronted the ignominy of being named a miscreant by the authority, compelled to pull out of a celebration in the midst of mounting tension and pessimistic press. Shabba was left wrestling with the aftermath of his words and the outcome of the tempest. Shabba gave a public assertion, communicating a lament for his comments, recognizing the mischief they had caused and denying viciousness against any individual paying little heed to sexual direction. It was a sobering snapshot of thoughtfulness for the beset craftsman, a lowering sign of the force of words and the obligation that accompanies using impact. The dropout from the discussion encompassing Shabba positions stretched out a long way past the limits of his own vocation, creating a shaded area over the whole ballroom classification. Following his disagreeable comments, craftsmen across the range found themselves trapped in a snare of undoings, and mark excusals, visas, and work grants became slippery. Whereas with advertisers avoiding booking specific demonstrations and rigid arrangements were set up to limit their collection, the repercussions resounded through the business, with resulting collections from Shabba and his friends getting tepid surveys. Best case scenario, quite soon Shabba confronted the distinct truth of being dropped from his record name, a devastating catastrophe for a once-stood craftsman at the zenith of progress. Despite difficulty, Shabba pursued the choice to withdraw from them. A spotlight, looking for comfort in the hug of his family. Moving from Jamaica to the U.S., he turned his concentration towards sustaining his familial securities and establishing a steady climate for his friends and family. It was during this time of thoughtfulness and recharging that Shabba moved back to the music that had forever been his soul. With his kids now more seasoned, he felt the call of the stage again, setting out on an excursion of resurgence and reclamation. In April 2011, Shabba owed his victorious revisitation of the spotlight with the arrival of the single Sister Od Dam, flagging his reappearance onto the melodic scene close by his significant other Michelle, whom he had hitched in 1992. Shabba embraced the delights of life as a parent, treasuring the security he imparted to his two children, Rexanjor and Jawan, in a genuine meeting with Jamaica's dramatic diversion news station. In 2012, Shabba thought about the qualities ingrained in him by his folks and the significance of family in his life. He talked energetically of his getting through marriage, a unique case in the frequently turbulent universe of ballroom, and credited his folks' model for motivating his obligation to building major areas of strength for his very own caring family following a very long-term break. Shabba Positions made a victorious revisitation of his country, Jamaica, to feature Sunfest, the district's biggest live concert, praising its 20th commemoration. Yet underneath the outer layer of his hut becoming lay a tangible feeling of thwarted expectation with the condition of the Jamaican ballroom music scene. In real-to-life comments, Shabba mourned the absence of advancement inside the business, criticizing the pervasiveness of ferocious rivalry among specialists in a climate likened to a barrel of crabs, each competing for their own rise. Tending to his own meager result of music lately has highlighted the business sharpness that highlighted his choices, certifying his obligation to keep up with the honesty of his specialty in the midst of business pressures. The next year, Shabba got a renowned greeting from an American TV slotbed to partake in a reggae and ballroom music execution scheduled for their yearly entertainment ceremony, close by a setup of regarded craftsmen. Thanks for watching this video.